Hey everybody, I just wanted to duck in and do a quick little piece of gear review for you, and it was about a unit that I really fell in love with and I used at all the live shows and rehearsals that we played for a long time. And the only reason I don't really use it at live shows now is because I bought an amp, the Boss Katana 50, that has some built-in effects in it, and they sounded really great, and I was just like, you know what, I'm just going to roll with that for a little while and do that. But for years leading up to that, there was a unit that I used that I was totally impressed with and totally fell in love with. I'm just going to give you some backstory. Like anybody else, I love technology and I love things that move everything ahead. But I'm usually a little bit slow to jump on them just because a lot of times what's first out the gate doesn't sound great and it's not really thought out that well. Like everybody can remember back to the 90s having like a Zoom 505 or a Digitech RP50 or something like that. And they were cool, in your bedroom or if you're, having a good time. But for using them for live, they weren't really intuitive. It wasn't, the sounds might not be the best, that kind of stuff. So they were kind of relegated to that realm. And when you went out and did a live show, we would always take, pedals and all this other kind of thing. But as time went on, I started experimenting with some of the newer units that were coming out that were just so powerful and so well laid out and well designed that I was like, I'm going to take the leap here just for simplicity. You know how it is. You go out with a pedal board, you have the power going into each pedal, you have a bunch of patch cables going back and forth, you're throwing the pedal board in and out of your car, so the buttons are constantly getting moved and the settings are getting thrown around. And I'm like, I'm just done with that, right? So I started looking around for something that really suited me, and the one that I fell in love with was this unit here. This thing called the ZOOM G3X, which I love to death, and I used it for maybe 4 years, maybe 4 or 5 years, like that, constantly at every show and every rehearsal we ever did. I loved it because it was basically so straightforward and so simple. It wasn't like you felt like you were manning a computer processor when you had to take the stage. You didn't feel like you were sitting there running some foreign piece of machinery in front of you. You just felt like, hey, you know what I mean? This is like a little pedal board, except it lights up a little differently. It felt the same, but it operated different. And I'll explain what I mean. The board was so well laid out. When you look down at it, you honestly felt like you just seen a small pedal board. I mean, you can turn on what you want, you can turn off what you want. There's the dials. Everything is set up for you until you turn it on. So if this is in your car, why something isn't running, you can fit all the knobs, you're not going to mess up your settings. It was just so practical. But obviously the main thing that matters with a unit like this is the sound. And I was really interested in all this kind of stuff. And I A/B'd this stuff all before I, made the plunge. And the sounds of these things were so incredible. I'm like, I can't tell the difference if I've got 5 Boss pedals thrown there or if I'm using this. So I'm like, well, why the hell am I going to keep going through that, where there's all kinds of chances that things are going to get constantly messed up or fiddled or a patch cable half unplugged or something is going to go wrong and it's going to throw my whole show out of whack. Because when you're on a stage, the main thing you always care about is that nothing happens to the show. The show has to go as smoothly as possible. People do not want to see you dicking around up there with your gear by any stretch of the imagination. They want it to go seamless, they want it to go smooth, they want to be entertained, and it's your job to kind of do it. You know what I mean? So I wanted something that for me was simple, straight ahead, forward. There's only one power plug going in, there's a cable going in, a cable coming out, and all the rigmarole that you go through on a pedal board, where I've seen guys have problems with pedal boards, was erased and gone. So I took the leap into the ZOOM G3X. The ZOOM G3X has a lot of features that I truly, truly, truly love with it. Even though you only see it, I picked the G3X compared to the G5X, which was actually a larger pedal board, because I wanted something small. I wanted something that was less footprint on the stage. I'm very big into that. The smaller the amp that I can get away with, the smaller the pedal board I can get away with, the more room I have to move around, and the less shit I have to carry, and the less of a pain in the ass it is. The device will actually run 6 different pedals at one time. But because of the screen size, because of the layout of it, you only really can see 3. Now, if you have a few running off camera, if you will, it doesn't really make a difference. Like I happen to run like a noise suppressor and a compressor in the front, so I don't use. I'm not going to click those on and off. I'm not going to do anything to them. The ones that I need to see, basically, which for me was my distortion, my EQ, and my delay, I always kept those on right in front of me, so it looked like any other set of pedals that I would ever need. The sounds I got were great. The thing was phenomenally reliable. It was built like a tank. I mean, these things are, I mean, this is all metal chassis, folks. This thing's been with me everywhere, in and out of cars, on and off stages. Never failed, never hiccuped. The sounds were incredible. There's no weird clicks or delays when you're hitting pedals. It's seamless. Everything just works nice. They give you a frightening amount of control over each effect that you can go in there. On the back of it, there is an XLR output. And the XLR output was a great design because when I would have it there, all I'm thinking to myself is, if my amp ever shits the bed behind me, I can easily just take the mic that they're miking my amp with, pull the mic off, throw it to the sound guy, take the cable, jack it into the back of this, and press on the one, whatever amp sim that I happened to be running at the time, whether it was a Marshall, a Fender, whatever the hell I was using. I think usually I use like a Mesa Boogie type of sound. And I would have that running, and literally I could have a show continue with only like a 45-second delay at most, even if I lost an amp. An amp will shut down a show, folks, if it craps out on you. And I've seen it happen to people. I've watched shows shut down because amps went up. And I can keep the show going because that's the only thing that matters in the end. You know what I mean? And I tell you right now, if I would have ran that XLR from the soundboard right into the XLR out of this, nobody would have known any different. The show would have went on. The sounds that come out of it are phenomenal, as long as the sound guy would have it coming out of the PA fairly well. So for me, it was an incredibly useful device. Also, in the back of these things, you can record straight to a computer, right? And I'm telling you now, I don't care what anybody says. The sounds coming out of these and some of the other new machines, whether it's some of the newer Line 6 stuff, or you throw that like the Helix in there, or you throw some of that Headrush stuff in there, or whatever, some of the Boss stuff. It sounds so good. Nobody's going to know whether you're micing up an amp. Nobody's going to know. It just goes to record, and it sounds good. And your settings are always there. You don't got to refiddle with your shit next time you go into a studio. So for me, it was a win-win, this piece of gear. Now, I know earlier I said I'm using a Boss Katana 50, but this always will stay in the front of the gig bag on one of my guitars. Thrown in there. It is heavy because this is, it's a heavy unit, but I put it in the gig bag just in case something goes wrong. I can whip this thing out in 2 seconds, jack it in. The show's going to continue. We're going to lose a minute of time, but it's not a big deal, and everything's going to go. Now, before I go any further, I just want to say one thing that's a really cool feature on this thing too. When it comes to recording, you can record right to a computer with this because it has a USB out, and you can just jack it into whatever DAW you're working on or using. But for me, I like to just go like, right into like a patch bay or something. That's kind of like where my brain kind of works. I'm old fashioned to a degree. On the back of this thing, you can have your normal 1/4 inch out and go, right into a patch bay, do whatever you want. Or you could go out through the XLR. And you can actually run one signal out from the XLR and another signal out from your regular 1/4 inch jack. And literally you can have the processed sound and the unprocessed. So if you want to run out a sound that's just like your basic guitar sound without any processing on it, you can do that and reamp it later. Or you can take the sound that you've developed and shoot it right out. Our bass player, Kyle, he has a B3, a ZOOM G3X. When we record, he will take his XLR and run it into one channel and run the 1/4 inch into another channel and have one is just pure clear bass tone. And then the other one as a distorted rattly type bass tone. And then we can mix the two out later, and we're in and out so fast, and it works so quick, and it works so flawlessly for us that we can go in and just cut a bass track like that, and then EQ out the two versions of it later, level out the two versions of it later, and it just sounds amazing. That's the way we do it. I know everybody records stuff a million different ways, and to each their own, and God bless. I just wanted to say, and again, if anybody's out there looking for a piece of gear that kind of does it all, the G3 or the G3X, which just meant you had the expression pedal, was an incredible device. Now, they also have a G3N, which is like the updated version of it. It's like all black, and it's made out of metal and fairly well. And the thing that's nice about it is you can actually shuffle over back and forth and see all your pedals and bring them up and bring them over. But it doesn't have the XLR in the back. And that was like, no way, dude. You know what I mean? In the LCD screens, it was more like a data bar compared to the G3, that actually you're looking at a pedal. You're looking at something that looks like a pedal, or you're looking at the front of an amp face. So there's nothing to, you're not going to squint your eyes and say, what the hell am I doing? You can just look down as though it's a normal pedal board, and you're going to feel at home in 2 seconds. For guys like me who are not kids, I'm an older dude, and I'm so used to an older way of doing things, being able to mosh technology into a way that's user-friendly, dummy-proof, if you will, so that you don't have to sit there and run a bunch of programs. I can sit there on the stage if I want and switch things and just change stuff around and do whatever, and it'll work. Anyway, sorry if this is a rambling video, probably not one of my best thought out type things, but I just want to say things like the G3X, right, the G3X is a great device if you ever want to make the leap into the next future of leaving your pedal board behind. You know what I mean? It's a great device to use. I still use it. I'll tell you now, I use it for recording a lot. When we go in to cut a CD, I will bring that with me, and everything goes through there now. I don't mic up shit. I don't play around with nothing. I ain't got the time. I don't care. I listen to the playback on the computers these days. I listen to the playback and I'm like, that shit sounds slamming. It sounds great. And I have patches in there just for recording. They're just like, you're like, okay, this is the patch I'm going to use for recording. And it sounds phenomenal every time, each time. I don't worry that I have to set up the room. I have to set up a mic. I have to EQ my amp. I have to change things. And did I brush a dial? Nothing. Hit it there, done, gone. In and out. So anyway, multi-effects processors, the stuff they're making today, incredible machines. I know we all tinker-toyed with our pedals back in the day, but is that day really worth it anymore? I don't know. To each their own. If you still do it, God bless you and have a great time. But I'm just saying, keep an eye out, enjoy yourselves. Remember, it's not what you use, it's how you use it. So have yourself fun. Take out a piece. Later. I'm going. It's late. I'm tired. I gotta go. Bye.